So could you just start off by introducing yourself?
Yep. So my name is Tom. I'm a support worker at a community mental health team and currently doing a level 3 in mental health support work.
Awesome. How long have you been in that role for, Tom?
So I have been doing it since 2021. So 4 years now. Yeah, I started just before my 20th birthday.
Cool. Okay. And how have you sort of found it so far?
Yeah, I love my role. There's a lot of challenges, particularly at the moment with increase of work, kind of what we're having, bed pressures, which hit the community quite hard. But I love it. It's seeing different patients every day, building a rapport with them, being able to kind of see them go on to make a difference has been really good.
That's really interesting. Do you have any specific stories or examples of, situations like that, specific patients that you've dealt with?
Yeah, so I've had a couple of patients. One that comes to mind is someone who was unable to get out the house, even to the point where they were ordering their food, their meals, everything was coming ordered. I worked with them on that anxiety, on getting them out, dealing with how they feel about that. And we worked for about 6 months. So it was a long work. I was seeing them mostly weekly. And by the end of our 6 months, we kind of said our goodbyes. He was getting out, he was going around. And then 2 months later, I saw him working in his new job in Tesco's.
That's really lovely.
Yeah, so that's one of the ones that I always think about when I do a particular thing called graded exposure. It works. It worked for him.
Okay, and can you tell me a little bit about that? Sorry, what did you say it's called?
Graded exposure.
Graded exposure. So is that like slowly increasing the exposure?
Yeah, so I mean, we literally started with his first step was to open the door for me, because it was usually his partner would open the door for me.
Yeah.
It turned into he was then opening the door for me, so that it started really, we start quite low. It's also used for things like phobias, so people who are scared of spiders, for example, you show them photos of spiders. It's a very short, we do start incredibly low, where some people say when they're doing it, it's like, oh, why are we starting here? And it's like, well, we start here because we don't want you to kind of dread us coming round because we're going to do something that you hate.
Of course. Okay. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. And it sounds like really rewarding work as well. On the subject of learning at work, could you talk a bit about sort of how do you learn to do stuff that has such a massive impact on people's lives? Because I guess the question I'm getting at is, if you learn to do something like scanning things in a shop, you can afford to be sort of a newbie who messes up a couple times, but not really when you're working in healthcare. So can you sort of talk about learning at work with such high stakes?
Yeah, we are quite lucky in both teams that I've worked in. The team that I worked in previously, the team that I worked in now, we have psychology, supervision and training. That's done by a clinical associate practitioner, I think they are now. By a cap in the psychology team, and it's also they're then supervised by the doctor in psychology, who also delivers us training. So that's how we're kind of trained to work with different psychological interventions. And then we have the availability to go and shadow someone who is maybe a couple of more years into their experience, especially if when I was new, I'd go and shadow someone, and just learn you almost learn different ways to say it and to make sure that you're not just reading it from a book. So we I always say that we kind of learn it ourselves as well, just so that we can give it better, rather than a patient wouldn't like it if we just spoke from a book.
Absolutely.
It'd be, yeah.
So the importance of connecting with them directly and learning how to actually sort of express it with its meaning rather than just read it directly.
Absolutely.
So what is it like going into a situation like that for like the first ever time?
Oh, it's incredibly difficult. It's quite intimidating, to be honest. It's almost, I remember looking back and I think it's that first stage where you feel like you have a real opportunity to change someone's life, but also then you have that pressure of, this is someone's life. This isn't, like you say, I'm not necessarily scanning things in a shop anymore. I'm working with someone to better their lives.
Human being.
Yeah, and it's really difficult. I think as well, you've got to build that rapport. And if you just go in straight away and expect them to trust you, then they're gonna put up some barriers, because, of course, they won't trust you and you don't really trust them necessarily as well in that situation. So it's really important. But I think it was almost surreal as well to feel, when you're first left on your own and told, right, it's your turn to go and deliver this. It was quite nerve-wracking, I would say.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of pressure that you could put on yourself even. So what role do you think emotional intelligence plays within all this?
I think emotional intelligence is massive. I think certainly I look back at when I first started this job, my maturity and my emotional intelligence was nowhere near as good as I am now. So, I think back to then and I think, well, now I've been lucky enough to learn as I've progressed and as you say, being in those taught situations. But I think emotional intelligence is massive because it enables us to feel confident when we're delivering a piece of work, when we're caring for a patient, whether they're in a crisis or whether they're doing a low-level psychological input. I think emotional intelligence plays such a massive part because it almost resonates as well. The person behind this bit of work can tell.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that's something we recognise certainly in the community is, and as a younger member of staff, we usually work with older patients, so patients in their 40s maybe. So it's important to kind of also show that you are intelligent enough, really, and to give them that trust that I do have this, although I don't have the life experience that they might have. I've got my own experience, and I've emotionally thrived through different things.
So it might not have the sort of breadth of their experience, but you have a unique perspective. What is it like being one of the youngest in that situation? Because I'm actually I think the youngest at the company that I work for, Dynamic Training, so I can relate a little bit on that. But what is that like when you are literally going into people's homes and changing their lives, but you sort of, it's almost like the people you're on a team with might have like 10 times your experience.
It can be difficult. We've spoken about in this team, we spoke about people's what's called social graces, and age is one of them, and a lot of people hold age quite close to them. And I think a lot of our clients do, so they kind of, I can particularly think when I first started, I would be asked, oh, how old are you? And I'd say my age, and they'd be like, oh, well, are you sure are you sure you've been trained? And it was almost kind of trying to help the client and say, actually, I'm just as trained as the 55-year-old support worker in the team. I'm not as trained in, like I said, I'm not as trained in life experience, because that comes with age as well. But I also think it can be really positive. I think there's a lot of people, certainly in my team, we have a lot of clients who are also themselves quite young.
Yeah.
And a lot of what's called like CAMS graduates, so they've come from CAMS to adult services, and I think they almost quite like the idea that their support worker understands them, possibly understands some of the words that they say.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, I don't necessarily, I'm not, they sometimes, I've heard before from a client who said they'd rather someone their age, because talking to someone older, it feels like they're talking to their mum again, or a teacher.
Yeah.
So it can work both ways, of course, because some people before have refused to work with me because of
That's
my age.
Yeah, I mean, because the people that you're dealing with in the community have such a diverse range of, age, religion, all different demographics. So it makes sense that the support staff, the people who actually care for them, also have a diverse range of all the demographics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's just like you say, with them being able to sort of relate on certain things, or just speaking your same language. So what was it that drew you towards mental health specifically, in terms of that field of work?
So I'm quite lucky in the fact in this role that I've learned a lot as well. My mum is a psychiatric nurse, so I've learned quite a lot from her, and kind of growing up with a mum who's a psych nurse, I got to know a lot of people, a lot of her work colleagues who are nurses, and I kind of was in and around that, and so almost seeing where my mum's been able to get, and thinking, I'd quite like to get there, or maybe further. And then also, I think struggling with having my own concerns with mental health, as loads of people do, I think it then brings that personal element into it, and thinking actually it can be really tough if you don't have someone, so how can I be that someone? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a very noble decision to make, to sort of go into that field, because as you say, almost everyone does have some kind of struggle with mental health, don't they? So yeah, that's an interesting answer. In terms of the apprenticeship itself, so what were your expectations going in?
So actually my expectations were actually very low, to be honest, because I'd had a colleague in a previous team who had done a level 3 with a completely different company. I can't even remember what they were called, but for me, watching them do that, I was like, I would really dislike that. So the way that they were set their work was they were pretty much set everything and told, this is you have a year to do, a year and a half to do this, but you can do it in a year. There was no real deadline, just almost, here's 50 things, these need to be done. So to be honest, my expectations were quite low. I was very nervous about the idea of, I'm just going to be almost thrown in the deep end. Here we go and do all these essays, which wouldn't necessarily work for me, because I don't think it would work for many people working like that. So
yeah, that sounds really overwhelming, to be honest. So tell me about how the apprenticeship matched up or didn't match up to your expectations.
I think, to be honest, pretty much all of the because my expectations were so low, pretty much all of the apprenticeship that I'm currently doing didn't match up at all, really. I think the only thing that matched up was that I naturally, as a person, probably obsess over getting these things done, so that even now, there are times where I'm up late at night. That I kind of expected, because that's just, I want things done. I hate things kind of leaning over me.
Right. But not a procrastinator.
I'm either I do it that way, or it'll be I'll wait until the last possible moment, and then it will be a complete cram. Yeah. So luckily at the moment I'm doing it quickly, which is good. But and didn't match up. Like I say, it felt so much more supportive. I was very lucky with the team that I was in who supported me, but also actually my tutor when I first met her. That wasn't something that I expected, actually, was to be able to meet my tutor and have a proper conversation while being next to my manager. And it did feel like a lot of support that I wasn't expecting, which I think is what has ran my motivation, was knowing that I have support behind me.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Do you have any parts of your apprenticeship that are like particularly memorable, or any like piece of work that you're particularly proud of?
So I'm currently doing a research project, which I'm finding is a lot better than I thought it would be. As soon
What
as
are
I
you
heard.
researching?
So I'm currently researching about the efficiency of my MDT meetings,
Okay.
because it's something that I struggle with MDT meetings. I don't like sitting, we can end up sitting in a hall for about 4.5 hours, and it's quite a hit. So
could you just explain sort of what that meeting consists of, what its purpose is?
Absolutely. So the MDT, we have support workers, nurses, psychiatrists and psychologists, so all of the people who clinically work in our service. The first part of the meeting is we speak about people who are on shared care, what we call shared care. That's basic. The most basic way to put it is it's almost just a step below crisis team, but a step above the care that would usually be given. So it's really unwell clients, or clients who've just come out of hospital, and we know that the first week of out of hospital is also quite risky. So we discuss about that. Then we discuss about, so people will bring clients to the table to be like, either want support, want to make a plan. All discharges from the service have to go through an MDT as well. So that it's a joint decision. But yeah, it can be quite a struggle, and there's been lots of complaints and recommendations about MDT before, so I thought, oh perfect, I'll do a research plan about that, because it's something that I don't really enjoy MDTs that much.
So your thesis is basically that this could be done in a more productive way?
Yes, absolutely. And also my main part that I've done the research about is collaboration as well. Ensuring that MDT isn't just ran by almost like a chair, a psychiatrist and a couple of nurses. It should collaborate the whole team. One, it's safer obviously for clients, but two, it probably will make things go quicker, because we can just, rather than having loads of little discussions, there can be one big one that will hopefully, like I say, get the timing up.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a really interesting research project. I guess I just have one final question, which is sort of about you and your future. You might just be thinking, just get me to the end of this apprenticeship, not much beyond that, but I guess I'm just wondering, like, what kind of career do you envision for yourself, and sort of why is that the path that you're thinking?
Okay. So after this apprenticeship, I'm hoping to apply for my nursing degree apprenticeship. I've again been lucky enough to work with a couple of student nurses who are doing their apprenticeship, but also a colleague who's doing their nursing apprenticeship. So kind of seeing them do that and thinking, yeah, I would quite like to do that. I'd like to be a nurse. It's almost, I think after about 4 or 5 years of being a support worker, you almost start to think, I could be doing more, I would like more responsibility. I'd like to have the title nurse. It's almost that like gold star that I don't have at the moment, but I almost want to reach it. That's my plan, is hopefully to do that. I think we've spoken about almost applying for it just before I finish this one, not after I finished it, so that we can get it in the wheels in motion, which admittedly does sound like a bit of stress for me, because I'm thinking, end one apprenticeship, go on to another. But with my career, I'd love to do my nursing, and my plan is hopefully once qualified as a nurse, I can look at going onto the ward, because I think as a newly qualified nurse, I'd learn a lot from the ward that I don't have that knowledge right now in the community. So it'd be good to have ward knowledge and then bring it back to the community.
Awesome. Okay, so you're pretty non-stop with your qualifications at the moment.
Yes, I mean it's almost of my own doing. I was frustrated in myself that I didn't get my level 3s when I was in college.
Okay.
So that's why I'm doing one now. And then it's like, well, actually, I'm really enjoying this level 3, and I think I'm doing quite well at it. So I'm almost training myself to do more training in a strange way. But that's my ongoing plan. But hopefully there's no bumps, but I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, well, there's always obstacles, but it's all about how you approach them,
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you.
I think people are going to find it really interesting.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you.